Hello and a very warm welcome to this, the 11th video in the Puppy Training Journey series. Now on this video I'd like to look at how to introduce grooming and body handling of your puppy. So in the following clips you'll see me introducing the comb to Ruby and giving her a light combing over and then going through some basic body handling tips with your dog. So just a few words at the very beginning of these clips of video to say that of course I'm not a professional groomer and I don't try to be. We will eventually be taking Ruby to a professional groomer's. I believe we have an appointment fixed very soon for her to go up for a trial session so that she can go up, have an experience of the environment, meet the people that run the place, and we'll then take it from there. So I guess there's two things to cover really in my mind at the moment, is that one, we have the subject of general grooming with any young puppy, and then we have particular grooming requirements for particular breeds, and of course depending on the breed that will vary. So Pip, my border terrier, she needs to be hand stripped and clipped every few months, and again these coats can vary quite a bit. If you've got something like a long-haired German Shepherd, that dog's needs would vary. We have at the moment and have seen for some time quite an explosion, I think it's fair to say, in these cockapoo types, basically, where the coats are requiring a lot more care than the average or rather than the owner may appreciate. Now it's very important, one of the key messages I want to put over here, that you start introducing your dog to grooming utensils from the very beginning. This particular comb we've been guided to for Ruby because it will be useful for her coat, but please maybe take some advice from a professional groomer. There's some good books on the market and plenty of advice online for specific breeds where you can research the needs for your own dog's coat. Now, just coming back to those 2 points, so basically we have your general needs for all the other breeds and that you need to research those, and then because we are seeing such an explosion in breeds which are crossed with poodles, and Ruby is no exception, that their grooming requirements are quite different. They have more of a like a woolly coat that needs to be properly groomed right to the base of the hair itself, so down to the skin. Okay, so I think I've covered those main points. Now, Ruby is now 11 weeks of age, and we have been grooming her on and off since day one. So maybe just to let her see the comb, and we are just doing nothing more in the beginning other than to cross it over her body so that she's beginning to feel that sensation. Now at the moment you can see I have a little Kong here, which is the puppy Kong I prefer. Puppy Kongs are softer in density. They are usually blue or pink, and I believe they're the same density. So a bit of a male-female thing, I should think. Although yes, puppy Ruby is a girl. So, and in here I have a teaspoon of organic, healthy peanut butter. No palm oil, no sugar, no salt. And I've been using this with her in the crate, which is just over to my right here, and she's been going in there on a regular basis with the Kong quite happily. So if you're doing this on your own, you'll need to be realistic, keep the periods short, but do ensure, especially with a puppy, that you have some adequate means of distracting the dog, hence the Kong in this situation. Where's my student? Ruby, come on. Hey. Good girl. What's this here? Ruby. Good girl. So if it isn't a Kong, it depends on what your dog likes and enjoys, but have something always to hand so you can keep your dog's interest in that. It's not unusual when you start grooming your dog for the dog to be turning around on its back and maybe going to mouth you. Not so much biting, because that's different. That's the sort of behaviour that is possibly seen in a puppy, but that's getting more into behaviour problems, which I'm not specifically looking to address. This is all about avoidance of problems so that we set up good, positive experiences from the beginning. Okay, so do have something with you at all times. Another approach, if you've got the hand of somebody else available, is that you have, say, some of the dog's food or kibble or some little bits of chicken, so that the other person can keep the dog distracted and to feed the dog little bit by bit whilst you are setting about your grooming. Okay, now another thing to say is that Ruby actually is getting quite active, and I would usually try to do this when she might either be asleep or post exercise. Now I'm about to take her out, and I'm doing this simply because she's relatively clean and dry, and I thought the timing was good for the video, but you will see quite possibly another clip of her post exercise and how much calmer she will be. So pick your times carefully. So maybe a summary at this stage: short, enjoyable sessions with you and the dog. Make sure that you've got something to distract the dog. It would be quite okay to have like a stick chew or something of that nature that the dog could chew on, and you could hold that for the dog to facilitate grooming with the other hand. Consider the help of another person, and then they can do a little bit of the control and feeding for you. And don't try to get too deep too soon. This is really about introducing the dog to the concept of being groomed across its body. Okay? Now this brush has very big open teeth on one end and smaller closed teeth on the other. I will put a link to this particular brush or comb in my Amazon store, which if you go onto amazon.co.uk/alphadogbehaviour, you'll see a list there under puppy supplies. Okay, and this comb will be listed there for you. Good. I've taken her collar off. I'm not trying to get too deep. Now, I did speak to my good friend Faye at a groomer in Bewdley last week, and she was explaining to me, because I was seeking some advice, that it is important that we look to, in time, get down to the skin on the dog, not just superficial grooming across the top of the hair. But again, that will take time. Ruby, come on. Good girl. Come on. Good. Good. Oh yeah. Now you'll probably find that grooming along the back is quite easy because the dog will tolerate it and it's not too sensitive. But you then, once you get to the under regions of the dog and its back end and its paws and its face, then you will need to be more careful, yet also to build that confidence up in the dog as well. If there's any snagging, don't pull against it harshly, just lift it up and just gradually work your way down, so in this instance the tail. So just gradually opening it up. Good girl. Good. Do pick your moments for doing this. Don't even bother trying to groom your dog if it's absolutely charging around or having the zoomies, as it's sometimes called. Okay. Good girl. Good. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Now, if you find any of this trying to bite or chew at the comb, you could be using the same phrase as if she was trying to bite you, such as "no biting." And then you simply redirect her back on the toy. Good in theory, I know, but it will need practice and time and effort. You're looking at weeks and months to really get a dog to be fully relaxed when being groomed. Good girl. Interesting, look how straight-ish her coat becomes. post grooming. She's almost like a different dog, and then that you should see the difference between here and her back quarters. But that tight curl will come back again. So her back is actually quite well done. She's allowing me to go down to her skin. Oh, she's got her collar, which I've taken off. Thank you. Give. There she can't. There's Mr. About to die. Good girl. So something along these lines every day. Prevention is better than cure. I have had many, well, a good number of dog behaviour visits that relate specifically to a dog not allowing itself to be groomed. And you know, those dogs are then usually, well, on average the age of dogs I see in behaviour cases is 2. No biting. See my tone of voice, back to the nipping and biting video I made. We are saying it like we mean it. Good girl. But I'm not shouting at her, I'm not being rough, I'm not scolding her. We're being patient. It's a blend. It's a blend in the beginning of being patient yet not being a pushover. You need to let your dog know that there is an element where it's going to happen, albeit in a nice positive manner. Because if you let the dog mouth at you and at your utensils as you're grooming it, you could find yourself in a position where you just can't really do it later on. So that's her back done. I'm going to put her down because, as in the spirit of what I'm saying, we're doing a short session so I can verbally cover some of the areas that I wanted to discuss with you. Okay? What do you think? So having just discussed and looked at some of the areas that you're likely to encounter when grooming a puppy, I also want to talk about handling your dog. Now, you will inevitably be handling your dog throughout the process of grooming, but it is important that you get your puppy every day used to maybe a little bit of a body inspection. And so I would think in terms of being able to look at the dog from nose to tail. And I simply can do that by getting her to sit down, Ruby, good girl. Let me see your nose. Oh yeah, let me see your teeth. Good, let me see. Good girl. Let me see your eyes. Good. No biting. No biting. Let me see your ears. Good. Now again, being able to inspect ears is really important. Good. Let me see your ears. What I do is I use a little phrase, and the phrase is, let me see your ... So it would be nose, eyes, ears, tail, feet, so on. Okay, and you can then work your way through these body parts, and so that your puppy becomes accustomed to being inspected in those areas. Again, this is very much about setting up a positive preventative approach, so that if and when you need to give your dog medication in the future, that your dog is accepting in the process. Let me see your feet. Oh, very nice feet. Let me see your claws. So gentle pressing on the pads just to get her claws. And this would prepare for a bit of nail trimming. Good. If you want to do some nail trimming, you can just touch the nails with the trimmer to begin with. Don't actually try to trim your puppy's nails in the very beginning. Work up to it. Let me see your feet. Good girl. Hey. Let me see your feet. Good girl. Some dogs can have very sensitive feet. I don't think Rubies are too sensitive. Good. Good. Let me see your ears. Oh, what nice ears you've got. Yes, very nice. Very nice ears. What beautiful ears. Hey, be nice. Steady, steady. Good girl. Good girl. What a lovely tail you've got. And what beautiful back feet you've got. So I'm holding her quite securely, but I'm not squeezing her. She is comfortable. But there is a sense of just let me have a look. Good girl. Good girl. If she tried to bite my hand or mouth me here, I would again be using the no biting, which, as I said earlier, that tags back into the biting and nipping video I made recently. I think we probably got that. Ruby. I think we've covered that subject pretty well. Oh, my legs. Oh. Squats 2 days ago. Oh. So here's little Ruby. She's come back from a walk and she had very, very muddy feet. So we have put her in the bath. You can see the residue there, Lord above. But she's in a warm bath, only really to do her up to her elbows, so to speak, and she is being fed little bits of chicken. So if you make these first experiences and events calm and positive, those are the 2 key words you're always really looking for, and it can make a big difference on the dog's association to it.
What is it? What is it? Yes, I'm chicken. You tried to watch it around again. Come on then. Okay now. Okay.
It's a 3-person job.
Someone needs to clean up this rock. That's disgusting.
Oh, Ruby, you dirty dog. That's nearly as dirty as my baths. What are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, I don't know, but I got cold, wet feet.